Welcome to video 6 of our training series. In our previous video, we explored Entity Builder, a powerful tool integrated into our eCase platform for creating and managing entities and their associated fields. Today, we will continue to explore and demonstrate how to create entities using the Entity Builder. Based on our understanding of the Entity Builder from the previous video, let us proceed to create main entities and pick lists within our system, enhancing our ability to design solutions to the identified requirements. As a reminder, we have the following entities in our complaint management system: complaint, priority, organization, and complainant. To create an entity within the system, we shall click the Create Action button and provide the following fields. Display name is a mandatory field and presents how the entity name will be displayed in the system. System name is a mandatory field and presents how the entity will be identified in the system. Main entity checkbox should be ticked if the entity being created is going to have a data entry form associated with it. If the checkbox is deselected, the entity will be created as a pick list entity type. Root entity checkbox is needed in certain scenarios when it becomes necessary to partition the data of a main entity into distinct logical segments. This division allows for parallel work on the segments or the implementation of different business processes for each. To mark a main entity as a root entity, tick the root entity checkbox. Tick has an icon checkbox if the entity's records that you are creating are associated with an icon. Check the cacheable option if your pick list entity has a small number of items, up to 100 to 200. This way, the system will apply special caching on the client side, which will make it run faster. However, if the pick list entity has many items, it is best not to enable client-side caching. Tick the indexing checkbox if the entity being created is going to be available for search engines, meaning it will be used in filters, record tables, summary form, and etc. Click the Create Action button to finalize the process of creating an entity. Let us create the entities of our complaint management system. First, we will start with our main entity, complaint. The display name will be complaint, and the system name will also be complaint. We will mark it as the main entity since we established it as such in the previous video. Since there is no root entity in our system, we will leave the root entity checkbox unchecked. Our entity should be available for the search engine, and since the indexing checkbox is automatically checked, we will not make any changes to it. When clicking the Create button, we will be redirected to a workspace for configuring the entities created in the system. Next, we will create a pick list entity which has connections with the main entity. We will start by creating our pick list entity, and afterward, we will define fields and relationships for the main entity. We will now create our priority pick list entity. The display name and system name for this entity will both be priority. Since this entity is not the main or root entity, we will leave the checkboxes unchecked, including the Has icon option. However, we will check the cacheable checkbox as priority pick list will have a small number of items, and indexable checkbox to ensure that the entity is accessible through search engines. This entity will contain just one field, name, which has already been created automatically by the system. Since it is a pick list entity, we will need to add values to it. To do so, we will need to redirect the pick list section from navigation pane under the Settings section. To add new items to the priority pick list entity, you should navigate to the Pick Lists section. Then, use the Create Action button. In the Name field, input the desired value and click the Save button to complete the process. Let us consider our project has the following values: high, medium, low, and we will add them as a new value to the pick list. In this video, we have covered the creation of entities in the complaint management system using the Entity Builder, including the setup of the priority pick list entity. In our upcoming video, we will dive into configuring entity properties and establishing relationships, enhancing the functionality of our system.